Welcome back to Reddit Story Time. Today we have 4 incredible stories. Let's dive right in.
Story number 1. You need a doctor's note. Fine, here's a week off. A 26-year-old service industry worker was sick. Like genuinely sick. Could barely breathe, couldn't stay awake, the kind of sick where you should absolutely not be anywhere near food. So he did the responsible thing and called in for just 1 day off. His manager's response: well, you need a doctor's note or it's an unexcused absence. Now this is the service industry, where guilting sick employees into working is practically a tradition. Managers love to act like you're faking it, like you need to prove you're really sick before they'll grace you with a single day off. But here's what the manager forgot. This employee had health insurance through his dad, so instead of arguing he went to the doctor, got checked out, and walked out with a doctor's note for not 1 day, not 2 days, but 4 full days off. He walked back into work, handed the note to his manager and calmly said, "Here is my doctor's note, and this is the date I will be back." You could practically hear the manager's jaw hit the floor. But it gets better. A few months later, the same manager tried pulling the same stunt. Same demand for a doctor's note for a simple sick day. So our hero went back to the doctor, got an even longer note, and this time asked the doctor to add a note about when he would start being infectious around the food they were serving people. Because nothing says management failure like having to explain to corporate why your policy of demanding doctor's notes resulted in employees getting week-long absences instead of 1 day sick leave. And from that day forward, nobody at that job was ever asked for a doctor's note when they were sick again.
Story number 2. No emergency clothing on expenses. Enjoy the $120 laundry bill. An employee was working away from home, staying in a hotel during the week and only going home on weekends. He'd packed exactly 1 week's worth of clothes, standard stuff. But then his boss called and said they needed him to work the upcoming weekend too. That would mean 2 solid weeks away from home with only 1 week's worth of clothes. Simple problem, simple solution, right? He told his boss he needed to pick up some new underwear and socks since he'd run out. $20 maybe, totally reasonable expense for a last-minute schedule change that wasn't his idea. The boss's response: no, expenses won't cover that. Now, this is where you have to appreciate the beautiful, petty creativity of a determined employee. If emergency clothing can't go through expenses, what can go through expenses? Hotel laundry, apparently. So this genius took his entire bag of dirty clothes, stuffed it into the hotel laundry bag, and sent everything to the hotel laundry service. £5 per pair of socks, £5 per pair of underwear, £10 per shirt, £10 per trousers. Every single item professionally laundered and pressed by the hotel. The final bill, £120. For laundry that would have cost £20 to replace with fresh clothes. He submitted the whole thing through expenses without a word. And you know what? It went through. Because it was technically, perfectly, completely within policy. The manager never said no to a reasonable expense request again.
Story number 3. Suspended. Cool, I'm going to the beach. Don't call me. Picture this. You work in sales. There's this older guy named Bob who everyone hates. He lies to steal commissions, sabotages team bonuses, and generally makes everyone miserable. But management loves him because he's been around forever. One day, a young employee decided to have a little fun and changed Bob's screensaver to say Bob is a jackass. Childish, sure. Harmless, absolutely. The whole office giggled as they walked by. But Bob eventually noticed, and Bob was not amused. He stormed into management, called it defamation and workplace harassment, and demanded action. The owner called the young employee upstairs and went nuclear. "What are you doing? This guy is a nightmare who has sued companies before. You used someone else's password, which is a policy violation. Go home. You're suspended for 3 days. Get out of my building now." Now, here's where it gets beautiful. The employee walked out the back door, got in his car, and drove home. It was only noon on a Wednesday, which meant he effectively had a 5-day weekend. He told his wife the good news, and they immediately headed to the beach 3.5 hours away. Meanwhile, back at the office, chaos erupted. The employee was leading several active projects. Reports were needed. Presentations were stored on his computer. Files had to be accessed. His direct supervisor called. "Where are you? We need the numbers. We need the files. Come back." His response: "Mr. Johnson sent me home for messing with Bob's screensaver, but nobody told me not to come back." The supervisor asked for his password to access the files. "Sorry, sir, I was told not to share passwords. Mr. Johnson said so himself." The supervisor said, "Be here first thing tomorrow morning." And our hero replied, "Well, sir, I won't be back until Monday. I was told to leave for 3 days. His supervisor said, "You have to be kidding." He wasn't kidding. He turned his phone off and enjoyed a lovely beach vacation while his company scrambled. When he came back Monday, everything was fine. He made a sale and all was forgiven. Bob was still annoying, but that 5-day beach weekend, absolutely worth it.
Story number 4. Punished for overperforming. Watch me do the bare minimum. This employee was a machine. In a call center job where the bonus required 200 calls and 2,400 points per week, he was regularly making 300 to 500 calls and hitting nearly 7,000 points. He was doing the work of 3 people. The company loved him. The owners knew him by name. He got invited to corporate events. Life was good until management decided that his numbers were too high. That's right. His supervisor actually told him his performance was too high and that no one else makes nearly that amount of points. Instead of, maybe trying to help others reach his level, they decided to punish him. They implemented a new point system that would revalue his 7,000 points as only 1,800, well below the bonus threshold. When he pointed out this was essentially punishing good performance, his supervisor shrugged and said, "Well, that's what the company wants to do." But here's the thing. This employee already had a new job lined up, a better paying job in media production, his actual passion. He was going to start above what he'd been making even with the bonus. So when his supervisor announced the new system, he handed in his 2-week notice right then and there. And for those final 2 weeks, he did exactly what his original job description required. Nothing more. His originally assigned areas, done perfectly and clocked out early. Other departments where he'd been covering for underperformers, not his problem anymore. The ticket queues in those areas climbed from 10 daily to hundreds. His supervisor's boss called multiple times, begging him to help out. His response was perfect. "I'm doing what is good for me, unless you can offer me more than what the sheriff's department is willing to pay. I will only do what I am paid to do here until my last day." 6 months later, a former coworker messaged him to say they still hadn't found anyone who could do what he did. The company literally broke their best employee and then couldn't understand why nobody could replace him.
That's all for today. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more. See you next time.